I did, in fact, break the story about Mahogany Jackson on YouTube. Okay. I broke the story about Mahogany Jackson on YouTube because I was on Clubhouse in Two Guns Vito's Clubhouse room, which is a big Birmingham side of Clubhouse. And they actually broke the news about Mahogany Jackson and the eight friends and so forth. And I decided to come back to YouTube and make a video about it. And the news clips and stuff, they didn't have many views on it or anything. I just grew a passion for covering the story about Mahogany Jackson, and it just took off and I led it. And just a quick reminder, Mahogany Jackson, um, she was unalived by eight or nine or maybe even more, but just eight people got caught for pretty much running a gang plate on her and ultimately unaliving her. She was out there on her own because she had issues between her and her mother. And you know, she was homeless and had to go back to a place that was not good for her. And a lot of jealousy actually, in fact, occurred. Um, and they unalived her, they robbed her, they beat her. And now, in the state of Alabama, these suspects are now eligible to face the death penalty. And based on everything I know, they should, in fact, get the death penalty. But here's an update report breaking everything down. Just a quick reminder.
Right now, a major update in a shocking and difficult murder case. All 8 suspects in the Mahogany Jackson killing will now face the death penalty.
If there's an aggravating factor that's involved, then those cases are eligible for the death penalty. We typically don't do what they call seek the death penalty. If a case is eligible based on the facts in the law, then we charge them as such, as we did in this case. A long stint in jail, being in prison the rest of your life, and or ultimately the death penalty.
Is that even her?
February 24th.
That wasn't her. I don't know.
It took less than 60 seconds. That's how long Mahogany Jackson stood in Brandon Pope's apartment on February 24th, 2024, with a gun in her hand, demanding he return what he stole from her. And when he couldn't produce it, she did something that would cost her everything.
And I totally believe this.
She made him
Right now, a major...
I'm sorry. This whole narrative about Mahogany Jackson going into Brandon Pope's apartment and making him script, I definitely think that that is a false narrative. And there's nothing that can actually prove that to be true beyond the scope of his words or whatever words of the other suspects that decided to demonize Mahogany Jackson. From the video we seen, it looked like Mahogany wouldn't even be the type of person to carry a pow or to be in possession of it, let alone having the courage to tell a big stinking ass nigga like Brandon Pope to strip. So I don't believe that. This is speculation without any allegations, and it's a part of their defense, I guess, so that they don't have to die. Because if they litigate that and say that they did it in retaliation and she was just as bad, I guess they're trying to escape the death penalty. But again, I don't think anybody in their right mind is going to believe that this little girl went and told his big stinking ass the script.
Right now, a major update in a shocking...
underwear right there in front of his friends. Now, for a man trying to maintain any kind of respect on Birmingham streets, you can imagine what that felt like. The humiliation, the anger building up inside him while he's standing there nearly naked, watching this 20-year-old woman walk out his door with what she came for. And that's when Brandon Pope turned to his crew and said 4 words that sealed Mahogany's fate. Do something to her. What happened after that? 30 hours of torture, 8 people involved, multiple locations across Birmingham. And here's the part that's going to stay with you. They filmed it. Every bit of it. These weren't strangers who snatched her off the street. Every single person who hurt Mahogany Jackson, she knew them. This is deadly affairs. And today we need to talk about what happened to Mahogany Jackson, because this case right here, it's going to show you just how dangerous the people closest to you can become. Let me tell you who Mahogany was, because she deserves that much. Mahogany Jackson was born April 29th, 2003, 20 years old when she died. She had a 3-year-old daughter named Nydia, and if you ask anybody who really knew her, they'll tell you that little girl was Mahogany's whole world. Her mother, Gail Maddox, said Mahogany loved the color pink. She had dreams of going to cosmetology school.
Right now,
And I just want to say that with Gail Maddox, her mother, I definitely know she's feeling it, but from my recollection, her mother did not have a great relationship at all. Her mother actually caused drama, chaos, and confusion behind the custody of her daughter and the, received food stamps and government benefits for her daughter and kind of like held her daughter over her head. And Mahogany was very, very afraid of her daughter being touched by someone. It's alleged, and I pulled up information. The streets say that Mahogany Jackson's daughter does not belong to the gentleman that they have claimed is the father, but the daughter actually belonged to one of Gail Maddox's ex-boyfriends. And this is over in Birmingham, Alabama, which, and according to the people from Alabama on Clubhouse, these women teach their daughter to eat on them. That's what they do. Literally, it's disgusting. I've heard it so many times on Clubhouse, and people on YouTube can say I'm gaslighting in line, but it's a big topic of discussion. If I go to Clubhouse right now, they would tell you. Matter of fact, I probably just do that. But my whole thing is, Gail Maddox is not all the way innocent, and this whole, notion that she care about Mahogany and advocating for her is just a form of narcissism to hide your bad behavior and to make up for the bad things that you did as a mother, such as causing your daughter to become homeless because you pressed charges on her when she was living in government Section 8 apartments. It was Mahogany's former neighbor, Jessica, a white woman, came onto my platform first and gave me the exclusive story. And then she was, pimped all across the YouTube streets telling the same story, hitting the same tears, and it just gave inauthentic, but we got the story anyways. So Gail Maddox is the reason she was homeless and had to move from Jasper back to Birmingham, back in the hood. Like moving from Birmingham hood to Jasper, Alabama is like changing your life. I ain't talking about like Fresh Prince of Bel-Air type of change, but obviously you move yourself away from those people that have bad influences. And she moved away for some years. And this is at a time post high school, because once high school is over and you fall out of that routine of having to go to school, you're either gonna have to work, find something productive to do. And a lot of black kids, they drop on the deep end in the summertime or when school is out and they no longer have that to look forward to in the glory days of high school. So Mahogany moved away, and when she came back, I guess she expected her old high school pals to be the same way, but they was all trash, full of shit, and very much jealous of Mahogany. And I recall her calling her mother and texting her mother, telling her she was in dangerous and needed help, and her mother ignored her, because, oh, she's a problem child, kicked her out, took her daughter, did not let her move back in the house. I'm pretty sure Mahogany had her issues where she was, mannish and disobedient and so forth. But again, the mother caused her to permanently lose her Section 8 voucher or ability to apply for government apartments because she called the police on her and had Mahogany put in jail and then evicted. And this girl was only like 18, 19 years old, and she would never be able to get another government housing, and her mother knew that, and that's how nasty she was. So I'm not trying to kick somebody when they're down, but we got to focus on the facts. And I had a big issue with the mother for the factual allegations and things that she did to Mahogany and how she could have actually saved her daughter. So
build something better for herself and her daughter. In December 2023, just 2 months before all this happened, Mahogany sent her mama a text message that said, "I'm 20 and I'm ready to get my life in order." She meant that. People close to her said she was actively trying to distance herself from certain friends, from a lifestyle that wasn't going anywhere good. She was getting closer to her cousins, looking for stable work, really trying to be the mother Nydia needed. But here's what you need to understand about changing your life when you're young and you've been running with the wrong crowd. Not everybody's happy to see you grow. Some people
Right now, a
shit.
major
They take it personal.
So this first guy right here, this is the 18-year-old boy who was with the guys that and he's claiming coercion. So if anybody like gets life in prison and not the death penalty, it will be him. Sanaya McCall is the first girl here next to him. She's the girl that made Mahogany eat her. What a big thank it is. This guy right here, I forgot his name, but he's the trigger man. This one right here with the dreads in his head between the two women, he's the trigger man. He's the one who raped her, had a freak off, and then drove the car to and towards by the dumpster and told them that they was cleaning the car out, and then shot Mahogany Jackson in the back of the head and threw her body in between two mattresses over by the dumpster. This girl right here is Tanya, or something like this. This light skinner right here. She hated Mahogany the most simply because they had an issue of the same boy, the same baby daddy, or the same man that they was dealing with. Now, where a blicky come into play on the video, she was on top of Mahogany, beating her worse than Big Vex did Summer, and she was talking about the gun that she had or whatever. And Mahogany, I think, was just like a pretty girl. And a lot of times in the hood, these hood niggas that they deal with, they tell these girls to hold their blicky for them, right? They tell these girls to hold their blicky for them. And when they're holding the blicky for them, it's affiliating them with it. That does not mean that they carry them or that they're solely interested, invested in none of that, right? So she was beating Mahogany worse than Big Legs did Summer. And I stand corrected. The guy right here on the bottom left, I think that is the trigger man, not this other guy up here with the dreads. He's a trigger man that dumped the body out by the dumpster. And the one up above him, the 18-year-old, was in the car with him. Brandon Pope, big smelly ass, is his house, and where he live at is where the whole incident actually went down. And he's claiming that Mahogany told him to script. And I don't believe that. He's way bigger than all of these. And then this other one, Giovanni Clapp, that's a woman, even though she looked like one of the dudes. She's a part of the gang graping and all of that other stuff as well. And then this ugly little skinny bird looking one, she's the one that dapped up Sanaya in the video and said, show them how we do it around here. You know, so all of these people are definitely guilty. And again, we continue to see situations where people think it's cool to jump people, fight. The other day it went viral that these two girls beat up one girl and they thought that they can get away with beating her up because they claimed mutual combat, but that girl went to the hospital and died, and now they're charged with unalivement. So who needs a friend when you got friends like this?
When you start doing better than them. But Mahogany was still connected to some folks from her past, people she thought she could trust, people she'd spent time with, laughed with, considered friends, 8 people specifically. Brandon Pope, 24. Francis Harris, they called him Ace, 25 years old. Jeremiah McDowell, only 18, went by Kodak. Blair Green, 26. Then you had 4 women, Tasia Lewis, 26. Sania McCall, 23. Giovanni Clapp, 24. And Ariana Robinson, 23. These were people in Mahogany's social circle. Not strangers, not random criminals. People she knew. Now let's talk about what led to February 24th, because understanding the trigger is important here. There was a gun. According to court testimony from Detective Mark Green, the lead investigator on this case, Mahogany had taken a gun from someone earlier. The exact timeline isn't clear, but what is clear is that someone then stole that same gun back from her, along with money from her purse. And Mahogany was not the type to let that slide. She tracked the gun to Brandon Pope, showed up at his apartment ready to get back what...
All of this is cap. All of this is cap. They was actually riding around, hanging out, went to see the juice lady, aka the lady that, you know, put the lean and alcohol and all that shit They was actually having fun when all of this happened. They just got too high off of that lean and everything, and jealousy, tempers, and shit flared up. And Mahogany was around them, and they have nowhere to go. She was homeless because her mother got her evicted from her apartment. Her mother was not answering the phone. She couldn't go over there. I don't know what's going on with her sister, why she couldn't call her sister, and why the sister ain't been questioned. But, so once they realized that Mahogany was in a situation of destitute, they then felt like, well, if nobody else don't care about her, let us bring all of this shit up and take our frustrations out, and we can do whatever we want to do with her. We can treat her however we want to treat her. I do feel like it was like a gang initiation where they beat her bad, and they didn't really understand how far they had taken it with what they did to her. Because apparently she was, almost a vegetable even before they told her to go pick up trash by the dumpster and shot her.
What belonged to her. She came strapped because she wasn't playing games. When she confronted Brandon about her gun and her money, she wanted to make sure he understood she was serious. So she made him prove he didn't have it, made him strip down to his underwear right there while she held him at gunpoint.
Yeah, all of this is a lie.
His friends watching, his reputation on the line. He didn't have the gun, but the damage was done. Court testimony from Detective Mark Green laid out what happened next, and I need you to understand much of what I'm about to tell you was captured on video. The suspects filmed themselves, 8 videos total, handed over to police by a witness who came forward to clear his own name after people on Facebook started accusing him of being involved.
And that him is actually a girl named Blue with her big black ass. She had something to do with it. She was antagonizing it. Blue with her big black ass. That was the first bro-rilla around here. She even tried to speak and act like she was in a full-blown relationship with Mahogany, and Mahogany was her old lady and stuff. And it come to find out that all she do is go around the community antagonizing shit, starring shit, knowing everybody's business and tea, throwing rocks and hiding her hands, Blue. And they was sending her them videos and stuff. And Blue went and turned over the evidence so that it could not implicate her. Blue even went on live on FaceTime and act like she called the police on herself and said, oh, come and get me and everything. And here go the 2 phones. And when she pulled that stunt going live, showing the police coming to get her, and they took her into questioning and held her for about 3 hours. And within those 3 hours, that's when they got all the information that they need and all the videos and stuff. And that information will come out during the trial. So Blue is she's part of it. And she's going to keep on being part of shit. And as a matter of fact, Blue with her big black ass, she'd probably be locked up right now because at the time, she was out on a charge, a serious charge, assault with a deadly weapon. They give bonds for charges like assault with a deadly weapon and unalivement cases. They let the niggas out on the streets and fight these capital crimes on the streets in Birmingham, Alabama, just so you know.
The attack started at Brandon Pope's apartment on McMillan Avenue.
But did you not stay on that phone though? Y'all got the fight. When I was like, damn shit, what you say I come out? Oh yeah, bitch, I'm on that till they fought. You supposed to jump. Did they come out my mouth? No, I said no.
They punched her, kicked her, spit on her, stomped on her while she was on the ground. Then they stripped her naked and dragged her outside into the street by her hair. Detective Green testified that in the videos, you can hear one of them yelling, "Pop the trunk." They put Mahogany in the trunk of a car and drove her to a second location, the Serenity Apartments, where Tassia Lewis and Sonia McCall were roommates. Now let me be clear about what happened at that apartment, because the court record is explicit about this. What I'm about to say is based on Detective Green's testimony under oath, describing what he saw in those videos. At Serenity Apartments, Mahogany was sexually assaulted at gunpoint. She was forced to perform oral sex on Blair Green while other suspects held guns to her head, telling her she better do it right or she'd be shot. While that was happening, another suspect penetrated her from behind. She was handcuffed She was beaten with fists and with a baseball bat they found nearby. She was pistol whipped. She was spit on repeatedly. And during all of this, some of the suspects were on FaceTime, calling other people, asking if they wanted to come over and get theirs. Detective Green testified to something else that tells you just how terrified Mahogany was. At some point during the assault, she had a bowel movement on the floor, her body's involuntary response to the level of fear she was experiencing. And according to testimony, when they ordered her to take a shower, the state's attorney said in court the fact that the victim defecated on herself around the time she was being ordered to shower speaks to her level of knowledge of what is about to happen to her, which was she was not going to leave ever and she was going to die. Mahogany knew. In those moments, she understood what was coming, but she wasn't ready to give up. February 25th, 2024, 7:46 in the morning. After more than 24 hours of being held captive, beaten, violated.
And the reason she died is I think she asked to go to the restroom and she defecated on the floor. At some point in the middle of this, she had her phone and was able to text her mother and ask for help. And I believe she was making calls to other people as well. It hasn't been disclosed, but I can only imagine. And so when they realized that she was calling people for help, that triggered them. And that made them probably beat her even more in everything that they had done. I mean, these people that robbing, scripting, doing all of this stuff, you would think that she was just a complete outsider. Again, she left and came back. You don't never leave your hood and go back. You don't. Like literally, I cannot go back to my hood. Oh, you on TV and everybody know that and that's the perception about you and you got some clout off of that and people are into, oh, nah, we got it. I feel threatened and intimidated. Oh, you had your own apartment in Jasper and you was doing your thing and you clean and you ain't going through this struggle and you ain't go through half of what I've been through and you ain't been through this. Okay, cool. Well, guess what? Yeah, we on demon time. We all high. Come on over here. We finna try this out with you just to say that we down with the cause and we really about the street life because yeah, we can sacrifice her. It be the people closest to you. And these are the people she had no choice but to go to after her mama left her homeless and took her daughter.
Moved from location to location, Mahogany saw one chance. Her captors had let their guard down for just a moment. She grabbed her phone and typed out a message to her mother. I'm being held hostage in apartment 3. Don't call, send the police. Hurry. She hit send and included her location, Serenity Apartments. Back home, Gail Maddox was out of town, on her way to pick up her son from the airport. When that text came through and she read those words, her entire world stopped. Because if you knew Mahogany...
That's not true. That is not true. She read that message hours and didn't pay attention to it, didn't respond to it. So not only did she leave her daughter homeless, but she didn't even reassure that her daughter had an emergency contact because she wasn't it. And these are the reasons why I was mad at the mother and dragging her ass because she unfit and she's no good. She's a scam artist allegedly with a tax firm, went into real estate, a lot. So yeah, I drugged the mama.
You knew she was not the type to ask for help. She was strong, independent, the kind of young woman who handled her own problems. But for her to send a message like that, her mama knew something was terribly wrong. Gail immediately called 911 and sent family members to that location. Birmingham police rushed to Serenity Apartments. They ran up to apartment 3, ready to rescue a young mother fighting for her life. When they finally broke down the door, it was empty. There was nobody there. The suspects had already moved her, stayed one step ahead. But here's where it gets even worse. The suspects found out what Mahogany had done. They discovered she'd sent that text.
Yep.
According to Detective Green's testimony, one of them checked her phone and saw the message to her family, saw that she'd shared her location and called for help. They forced Mahogany to give them her phone password. Probably told her the same lie they'd been telling her all along, cooperate and we'll let you go. Give us what we want and this will be over. And Mahogany, desperate to survive, desperate to get back to her 3-year-old daughter, gave them the password.
Damn, she should have. Cause see, when you send a message, you can delete that bitch for yourself though. Cause once it's sent, it's sent. You know, and like we all know the angry text and be like, damn, rewrite that shit, don't send it. You know, so yeah, her biggest mistake was not deleting the text message. Well, her biggest mistake was going to these people. She had nowhere else to go though. That's the problem, and that's the point. Somebody in that church system or whatever, Gail Maddox, then let reach at her daughter. She's so traumatized, she was telling her white neighbor Jessica to check on her daughter because she don't feel safe and she feel like something is going on. Gail moved into her apartment and kicked her out, controlling her apartment that's in her name. So she can always be the person that Mahogany be codependent upon. That's why she snatched up her daughter too. So she really left this girl out there in the streets for dead.
That's when Frances Harris, according to testimony, looked at the others and said she ain't going nowhere. The text that was supposed to save her life had just guaranteed her death. Now, after they found that text message, everything changed. These weren't just people trying to teach Mahogany a lesson anymore. Now they had a problem. She'd called the police. She'd sent her location. They knew her family for her, and law enforcement was probably around the area.
Right now,
So yeah, much of what was in that video was definitely a clear summary. They just don't have the nitty gritty facts and shit like what I got, you know, which is, you know, we went deep diving in that case. Yes, indeed. And right now, Mahogany Jackson's brother has her daughter. Yes, but Gail is the one over the foundation and collecting all the money and stuff. And her son is in the military. He has his own life, his own child, and he has his own wife too. So I just always feel weary. Like, and this is no shade to the brother because first of all, that's not his child. Like, even though more morality speaking, of course, he's going to take care of his sister child, but that's not his child. And he's with this woman, and hopefully she does right by Mahogany's daughter. Hopefully she does right. I think her brother has a son, and then there's a girl. So I feel like so as long as his wife doesn't have another girl, maybe she will be treated solely fair and like the princess. But y'all know, ladies, you can have a favorite niece, favorite whatever, or shit. You can have a child and then have another child, and just quite naturally, the energy and the attention and favoritism and more empathy and compassion is going to go towards somebody. That's just natural. So it's honestly natural. It's fucked up sometimes, especially if it's obvious, but it's natural. And so hopefully she's being taken care of. I do believe that. But Gail is you know, she's we're going to focus on the situation at hand, but Gail still has not taken accountability. And I just hate situations to where the source of the problem don't find and don't take accountability. But who am I? You know, time ain't real, money ain't real. And I guess this is why when people get on their deathbed, they start finally wanting to take accountability so that they leave behind a perception that they gave their life to God and went on. Who knows? You know, but anyways, what's up? Shout out to y'all for being here. Are y'all on Twitch? Come on over to Twitch. Absolutely. Let's come on over to Twitch. I got some other stuff to get into before we get into the mess towards the end. Listen, I said that I was going to drop the link, but I really don't have time because I actually got to go to this event.